All right, so Mr. Newcomb, what are your views on the current gun laws we have now?
I think gun laws that we have now can function and also don't function. And I know that that's a bit of a waffle, but at the same time, I think that there are a significant number of gun laws that do prohibit people from getting guns who shouldn't. Despite that fact, of course, there have been a significant number of instances where people have used guns for violence, amongst other things. But if I had to come down on the line, I would say that I think that our current gun laws do a decent job of keeping the majority of guns out of people's hands who shouldn't have those, and that there are exceptions to that rule, of course.
Okay. So, what do you think could be done to reduce gun violence?
What do I think could be done to reduce gun violence? I think that there could be certain cultural shifts that could be helped, or that could be done to reduce gun violence. There are certain things that might need to change in order to shape the idea around gun violence or what guns are used for. I think it can be difficult to say that increased gun restriction can lead to a lessening of gun violence. And so I would be more for the element of trying to alter some of the culture around the use of guns, amongst other things, as opposed to harsher restrictions on gun control.
So does gun control result in a safer society, do you think? Or
I think, I don't know. There are historical examples and there are political examples for both. There are certain Scandinavian countries where people are required to carry or required to own a gun in their homes, and there are some of the lowest crime rates in the world itself. And on the other hand, there are those where there are absentless societies of gun crimes, or absent societies that don't have guns, and as such, there's less crime there as well. If I had to say that would gun control laws result in a safer society? On the whole, yes. There's a reason for gun control laws and gun restrictions, and on the whole, they make it a safer society. Would more at this point make our society even safer? I don't know, to be honest. No.
So do you think it should be like harder to get a gun or like easier to get one?
In the state of California or in general?
In the United States.
I think in the state of California, it's already pretty difficult to get a gun in terms of there's a significant amount of restrictions. I think on the whole, there are other areas where it can be extremely easy. In Arizona, when I went to college, there was literally a drive-through gun store. So that's significantly easier compared to California. I think I would definitely be in favor of a national set of policies that would establish limitations on when you could purchase a gun, a wait period, a background check, amongst other things.
So like how has the Second Amendment changed like in America over the years since we've had more powerful guns made instead of just like the regular musket that we had?
Right, so we have to remember the context in which the Second Amendment is written, right? We just fought the Revolutionary War. We'd had this monarchical oppressor attempting to establish our way of life and tell us who we were and what we wanted to do. And in overthrowing the British and literally winning the Revolutionary War, we done so through this militaristic event and through guns and our ability to fight that element. And in the frame of the Constitution, with this idea that man not only has the right to consent to government, but has the duty to stop the government when it is infringing upon its rights, I think that the Second Amendment is created in the nature of ensuring that the people would have the ability to do that if needed so. And given that in the modern day, government has become so strong and so much more disassociated from the individual like it was in the late 1700s and early 1800s, I think it's become more about individual gun ownership as opposed to that ideological mannerism about the ability to protect a democracy amongst the people itself. And so over time, as it started to change and as it's really started to become interpreted differently, it's become more about individual rights as opposed to the protection of the government, or the protection of the people from the government.
So would you say the Second Amendment is still relevant today with all the changes we've had?
Absolutely. Yeah, massively, right? Because even if we have entered into a different society where the government is more powerful and true armed overthrow of the government would maybe not ever work unless the military, was out of the question.
Yeah.
This idea that the people are still in control of the government and that guns represent the power of the people to tell the government and tell the government what they want and for the government to follow through is still extremely relevant and extremely important today.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Newcomb.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thanks, Ryan. What do you think of the Second Amendment? What does it mean to you?
The Second Amendment. I'm going to try not to tear up, guys. Well, I think the Second Amendment is very important. I think the Founding Fathers knew what they were doing when they put it in there. I think they foresaw some technological advancement, so a lot of people are kind of anti-Second Amendment right now and anti-NRA, and it's all terrible in their minds. But I think there's a lot of logic, a lot of reason, and a lot of wisdom that the Founding Fathers had to put that in there.
All right, what do you think should be done about gun laws and stuff? Should they be stricter, easier on people?
I think, in my opinion, less is more here.
Yeah.
Because, look at Alaska. Texas has had mass shootings, yes, but the number and the statistic on that number is so much less significant than, say, Chicago, which has massive gun laws. Still, gang violence, all sorts of stuff still goes on. The guns are still getting
Do you think the Second Amendment is still relevant today?
Absolutely. I think it was made then to establish the fact that you have a right to self-preservation, to be able to protect yourself. And I think, so many people who are anti-Second Amendment kind of always tend to be those who link up with minorities and such. And I'm in favor of that too, but I think if you're small, if you're a woman or something walking down the street and some big old dude's coming to harass you, you're going to want a gun. I think it's a pretty fundamental, basic thing that it's an equalizer. If there is somebody, it's a gun versus a person, the gun always wins. And I think, yes, that's terrible. There are mass shootings, there are things to consider. But I think generally the fact, places that carry more guns have less violence. And it's less people, and especially more training. I'm not saying go give guns out like freaking cotton candy at the circus, but give them training, give them guns, and give them the education necessary for that. Crime rates go down. It's still relevant today, and I think the Founding Fathers knew it would be. That's why they put it in there. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you get your one-shot muskets. And that's what this amendment means. They foresaw it would go, the guns would get, crazier and crazier. And I think it's very basic right of self-preservation. Very relevant today. This is CNN 10, Carl Zeus. Have a great Friday.
Channel 7.